Hi guys, welcome back. Are you ready for challenge number 2? In this lecture, we're going to focus in on the blind store application that we need to fix. It's not very friendly, and we're going to introduce the horizontal scroll bar along with it to make our selection of the quantities a little bit unique. Just to jog your memory a little bit, when we were working on the section on the index command and VLOOKUPs, I gave you this problem for a fictitious store that sells blinds for people's houses. And this was a chart that you would access given the blind's height, let's say 48, and the blind's width 54, to get a price for the blinds of $62. There were other factors in the blind purchase. The style added more to the price. The number of sets gave you a discount. So it was a fairly involved application. And down here near the bottom, you created a spreadsheet, something like this, where after you entered these entries, a number of calculations were made over here. Let's take a look at the actual program. So in the resources for today's lecture, you're going to see a number of files. The original blinds from lecture 19, and the two new ones I'm going to challenge you with. And again, please don't peek at those. These are the answers. We will take them up later on. But let's pop this up right now and just reacquaint ourselves with the program as it was. So over here on the left-hand side is our inputs. And actually, here's our first problem. If you weren't familiar with this program, you would not know that you have to type in a certain width and height. They only sell the blinds in these particular heights and widths. So if I wanted, I have to type in 60 and 48. So that's one of the faults right off the bat. So I'm going to type in a 60 there, and I'm going to type in a 48. And then we get a price for the blinds. Now you're saying, well, so what? You could type in any number. I've tried it and it works. And you know what? You're right. There's a little glitch in this program that I wish I wouldn't have done. I want exact matches. So let me just go over here and reacquaint you with how you type in exact matches. So I'm going to type in the word false here. You've seen me use this maybe a couple of lectures ago as a last parameter in the lookups. Now it's not going to change anything here, but what if I just blindly said, you know what, give me a blind that has a width of 34. Am I going to get lucky and have it exist? Doesn't exist, and it crashes the program. So we got a little bit of fixing to do here. Okay, so here's my suggestion, and this is what I'm going to challenge you with as our first thing today in our lecture. How about we try to make this maybe like a combo box, okay? So make that a combo box. So I want you to do that for that one. Same with the height. I want that one to be a combo box. Now the style number, I want that to be a list box. Okay, so you'll have a list of all the style numbers 1 to I think 9. This last one here, the width will actually, the valence width will just match the blind width, so I won't make you have you do anything for that one. It'll automatically go in there, so there's no controls you needed for that one. This last one here, I want you to use a new thing that we haven't used before. It's going to be called a horizontal scroll bar. It's got these arrows where you slide this little square button left and right, and as you slide it, this number goes up or down. That's called a horizontal scroll bar. Okay, so that's going to be the basic look of what I want you to create as an improvement to this particular application. Now, before you go away and do that, let me give you a quick little lesson on how to use this horizontal scroll bar. Okay, I've just popped up the blank screen. Please join me, if you will, and we'll do it together. So we're going to just show you the mechanics of how to create this scroll bar and then how to activate it so that it, as it slides, the computer knows what number you're sliding it to. So let me go to Developer and Insert. And it's this one right here, even though it's got like a vertical look to it, it's horizontal. We're going to draw it horizontal anyway. So we're going to draw it right around here. So that's what a horizontal scroll bar looks like. Okay, let's set a couple of its properties. So we'll press Properties. And I like to call my horizontal scroll bars HSB and then whatever you want to. I'm going to call it Test in this example. There's a couple of neat settings on it. Minimum means when the little square thing is way over to the left, what's the smallest number you want it to be? Well, I'm going to say 0. This is way too big for me. Okay, so let's rub that out and let's make it 100. That's going to be the maximum, and it's totally up to you. A couple of other things that sometimes people change. This word large change means if you slide that little square, how much do you want it to go up and down by? And you can have it go up by 5s or just small numbers. I like it kept at 1. And then small change, same thing. what's it going to go up by if you just click on the little arrows, and it's going to go up by ones all the time. So I'll leave those two alone. Time to program it. Let's double click. Okay, this is kind of weird, this way you program this one. Other languages only have one event associated with this, but in VBA you need to create 2 events associated with this scroll bar. So watch what I'm going to do here. I'm also going to pick scroll. So there's going to be 2 events that are going to happen simultaneously. As you use it, they will both be sort of awake and doing what needs to be done. All right, let's do some coding. So we're going to dim a sheet. I'm just going to call it sheet as a work sheet. And then I'm going to set that sheet equal to, that big long thing we usually type in, work books. And again, I'm going to take the lazy way out, put the 1 in there, work sheets, and put a 1 in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have, as I slide the slider, a cell change with the value wherever that happens to be as I'm sliding it. So I'm going to say sheet dot range, and then I'll put it, where should I put it? I guess top left corner is the safest spot. Dot value equals. Now our sliding thing, this horizontal scroll bar, is called HSB test dot value. Okay, now this is going to partially work. What you have to do now is basically take all of this and copy it into the same spot down below. Okay, you're going to see this is really cool the way it works. Let's hopefully see if it works now. I have to go back into design mode. All right, so as I slide this slider, see how those numbers are changing there? And then I can go faster all the way to 100 and all the way back to 0. So there you have, kind of neat, right? The horizontal scroll bar activating a cell there. So you're going to implement this also in the blinds application today, so that when we pick the number of blinds we want to buy, we're going to slide it with the slider. Just kind of something different. Still not sure what my vision is for this program. Well, here's one sort of iteration of it. You can design it any way you want, but basically, instead of you physically going here and typing in the blind width now, I'd like you to pick it from here. Okay, so you see how it changed to 78, and pick the height from here. The style number, again, I want you to pick it from here, and notice how it changed to a 4. The valence you don't change or type in. As soon as you type in a 78, that should automatically change to 78. Now the number of sets, that's the stuff we just did. Slide the slider to whatever number you want, and as those are changing, obviously these totals are changing over here. Okay, so that's my vision for it. Give it a try. Stop the video right now, and then we'll come back and we'll take up the solution. Okay, we're back. Hopefully you got it to work. Now you didn't really need to touch anything in here. The lookups are still the lookups from before. All these formulas really don't touch any of that stuff. It's just now the interface, how you have the user type in the information. We wanted to make it a bit more friendly. That's where the changes came in the solution. Okay, let's do each one of these controls separately. We'll start with the one that enters the width of 78 right there. We'll double click, and we'll declare a variable. I called it WT. And of course, we have to have an object for the worksheet, and then we make that object point to the entry sheet. The value that I click on in the combo box is stored in combo width.text. Now, I need to convert it to a number because we're going to use that number to do our lookups in a few minutes. And that number that I converted into a number is going to go into 2 spots, not just one. It's going to go into B4, which is where the width is located, but it's also going to go down to where the valence is located. Because when you buy blinds of a certain width, you have to have a matching thing along the top that you join the blind to, which called the valence. They have to match. So instead of you having to type in another entry, once you type that 78 there, we put it also down here. Next up, the height, basically the same thing. We define a variable HT, we declare our object, we have our object point to our worksheet, and this time we're using combo height as our name for the combo box, .text, that's where we're pulling out what we clicked on, converting it from a string, stuff with quotes on it, to just a regular number, and we store that number into B5, which is obviously right there. Here's our list box as opposed to a combo box, and when we click once on this, we're not using double click. Sometimes we have used a double click event with the list box. We do the following. Now I've shrunk the box a bit so we can slide down and see it. Here is the commands for the list. So again, we declare a variable. This time it's the style. We're trying to pick one of the 9 styles, and we declare our object. And this time lst style.text, we convert it to a number, and then we take that style number and put it into B6, which takes us back to here. All right, so there's our style number, which will be used in the style surcharge when we do the choose command to work out all the different prices for the various styles. Okay, but again, don't concern yourself too much with this. This is stuff that we did before in lecture 19, which brings us now to our last one, the horizontal scroll bar. All right, when we double click in here, remember the horizontal scroll bar needs 2 things. All right, basically the change event and the scroll event, and they're basically exactly the same code. So with the horizontal scroll bar, as you slide the slider, all right, whatever value you happen to be on, we store that into B8. Okay, let's return back to the main screen. So as we slide the slider, the number of sets is being fed into there, and then it works out into the calculation. So there you have our first sort of improvement on this application called Blinds, and now we called it Blinds Macro. Now we've got one more improvement to make. How about, and this is actually going to be pretty complicated, how about we create something down here at the bottom where we say, I want to change the master price of these blinds. So let's say I want to change the price for blinds that are 47, and so this one is the height, and then 82 for the width. So 47, 82, I want to change that price to maybe $100. Okay, so now I want you to create a little application that sort of goes in there and pulls it apart. So you're going to need to create a couple of little lists that we're going to point to the rows you're going to modify and the columns you need to modify. So I'm giving you a little bit of hints, and you're probably going to have a little scratch area where you're going to do all that dirty work. Do you remember how to do this? We've done something like this for another application that we did a couple lectures ago. I want you to now create one for this application that modifies the price table. We'll come back in a little while. Give it a try. Still not sure how to do this? Well, when I just left you a few seconds ago, I left it very open-ended. I'm almost like I was your boss speaking to you, like change the prices, work out a little routine that changes the prices. And I wasn't very specific, and that's sometimes how things are going to happen. But if you're still lost, let me give you a bit of a hint. Here's my vision for it. This might be different than your vision, but basically I want you to create something that, and again, we want to be as user-friendly as possible, picks a certain price. So let's say we want to change the width, the price of the blinds that are a width 84 and height 60. Oh, and this even pops up because, yeah, we need a price, right? So I'm going to change those to $100. Okay, so the blinds of width 84 and 60, I'm going to change to $100. I'm going to press OK. Now, where's the proof? So remember, we're going to go back now to the lookup page. So remember, width 84, height 60. So where's height 60? Right there. And where's width 84? There it is right there, and bingo, there's $100. So that's what I basically want you to do. And again, I don't want you to look too much into here, but there's a couple little things you need to do so that we can get to that spot and change it to 100. But that's what I'm going to leave you with. Try it now with that little hint. All right, time to take it up. Before I go to the actual coding of these combo boxes and that little input box that pops up, we've got to go back into lookups and do a little thing that you may or may not have realized. So when a person says, I want to change this particular blind height, I've got to tell the computer, hey, if you typed in a 60, that's row 25. Okay, so up here, this is one gigantic table that has not only the basic row numbers that we use in the index formula, but also now the actual cell locations that we need when we modify the price table. So this is one big gigantic table, which I've called height table. Same with the columns, okay? These numbers here, these are the widths, right? So if the person types in a particular width, now I've got to know that that's column C or D, okay? So if I decide to change the width to 78, that's column I, all right? So we have to make a gigantic table, 3-column table called the width, and I'll go over to the third spot to pull out these in a second. Balance, nothing really changes there. Styles, nothing really changes there. And then I'm going to slide this up. I've got my little scratch area over here. so that when a person does type in, for instance, a width of 84, that scratch area says that's the letter I, column I, and when they type in a height of 60, that's row 25. And what I'm magically going to do is attach that to this, so I get I-25, and then that becomes part of the lookups. So I create like a little concatenation formula, and now I know exactly where to go. I-25, and then change whatever happens to be in that location to whatever price I want. Okay, that's the sort of like little stuff you have to get going before we do the actual programming. Now let's go back to our main page and look at the code. Now you'll notice down here I've written down you must pick the height after the width. Okay, so, and the reason is when I press this one, it's going to start up the input box. Okay, so I want you to press this one first, then press this. Okay, if you press this one too early, the input box pops up and you never get a chance to type in the width. So let's take a look at the underground now, so to speak, for the width. Okay, so here we are. We're going to declare two sheets because we're going to be working on the entry page and on the lookup page, and we then point to each one. Now, when I click on a number in the width, the exact number I picked will be located right there, combo width update.text, and I take the quotes off of it, and then I store that number into location W. Now, what the heck is location W? Well, I was trying to be kind of clever and not say that it's B38. I actually called that location W, obviously, and I called this one location H. Okay, so that gets fed into there. Now, the instant it gets fed into there, I've got a little VLOOKUP going on here, okay, which is feeding in location W into this width table. Okay, so whatever the number was, in this case it's 84. So it would go down to 84 and tell us, oh, in the worksheet that we're going to modify, that's column I, and that's why you see the letter I there. Okay, let's go back up here now, and let's double click on the height. Now in the height, we have a couple things going to happen in there. We'll look at this one in a second, but let's declare our worksheets. Let's point to each worksheet, okay? And then when I click on a number in the combo height, it's going to get stored there, and it's going to get fed into the cell location we were in a few minutes ago, okay? And let's go back there again. I'm sorry I'm beating this to death, but that will be placed into there. And then this will do a lookup on the H value, the 60, and it'll go into the height table looking for 60, okay? And when it finds 60, it'll say, well, that's going to be worksheet row 25, and that's why you see the 25. Let's go back to our code. Now we have the input box pop up and ask for a price. And I've used some minor dummy proofing here. You can't type in a negative, and it will loop until you give me something more than 0. Once I have that information, we're set now to create this magic location that we're going to put something into. So the magic location is going to consist of the word lookups, okay? That's the lookup page. It's going to consist of what's in cell 38, and that will be the letter I in our case, I think, right? And it'll work up what was in location C39, which is the 25. So it'll be I-25. And again, not sure what I mean. Let's go back up here. So it's going to attach this thing, which is C38 to C39 to concatenate I-25. Okay, and we're just about there. This is now the location that I want to modify. All right, so the sheet lookup.range, that's the exact location I want to modify. I'm going to change the value property of it and put it to a new price. The new price is what we gathered here. And that's how you change the sheet. Okay, so there you go, from beginning to end, how to modify all the material in this worksheet. All right, kind of a cool application. Forces you to do extra thinking and incorporates a lot of the different ideas that we've been working on all the way through the last several lectures. Hope you got them. Hope you're starting to get comfortable with this stuff. We've been doing some pretty advanced stuff. We've introduced all kinds of combinations of different worksheet controls. Now we're going to make spreadsheets look even more professional by creating a main menu that contains buttons that we can go to different parts of our spreadsheet that can activate different macros to slick it up even more. Thanks for listening. Take care. We'll see you in the next lecture.